Is it a crazy idea to think that Gajamata and Gonzo may not be meta for Siege, anyways? And I'm looking through John's kit, I'm looking through Steven's, and they bring a lot to the table more now because of the crystal change than ever, and especially on long fights. I think these guys, at the very least, if they're not meta, their damage is going to be higher. I mean, shoot, maybe I'm wrong, but let's go through this, and then you tell me if I'm right or wrong. If you're currently in the bathroom watching my video, you have to like and subscribe. Okay, I want you to follow my crazy train of thought, and I'm going to talk about Garrison and then lead into field marches here. I've been pondering over, can Siege Garrison? I'm not saying I'm going to. I'm telling you this is my thought process. So I'm always looking like, who would be a really good Garrison if we were to have one? And John has this unique fourth skill that does 40% more damage to troops with less than 50% of units remaining. And I've been in other KVKs where it's like an artifact, or you can pick something up that like does more damage to troops under 20%. And that's like one hit. It really is. It's pretty quick. It seems like a really good skill, but it sucks. And so this one, I kind of thought the same early on. Like, it'll do maybe 2-3 hits. Yay, right? But now, looking at it from the perspective, not as Garrison, but from a field march, with the new crystal tech changes, this might be something. Okay, so what are the crystal tech changes? Real quick. We used to get 42.5% attack. Now we're going to get 12.5% attack. And those other 30 stats got split between defense and health. So defense is 15%, health is 15%. So you had 15, 15, and 12.5, 42.5. Okay, so when I look at John and Steven, their kits bring a lot of attack. And since we always talk about diminishing returns, maybe there was too much attack. And is there such a thing for Siege? Truly, I don't know, and I think we are going to find out in these upcoming KVKs what it looks like. So let's go through his kit. The other thing with Crystal Tech that I think is important to note is the call to arms. And I mentioned this in a video where I've never gotten to 400,000 troops in a meaningful fight, right? I'm a low spender. So now, with the way the changes are, you can get call to arms 2 very quickly. So I think it's completely reasonable in Zone 5 to have 400,000 troops, 12.5 attack, and, on the tree, as you progress through the new skill tree, when you get to the second attack bonuses, right, the 7.5%, right next to it is defense. So you're going to get some defense in Zone 5. Health? I don't know. If you get any health, it'll be not a lot, but you're going to have a little bit of defense and some attack. And with John and Steven, man, I'm so curious to see if these guys are going to pump it out. All right. His first skill, he's doing like 900 damage. And then when he hits his active skill, it's going to do, when he procs, it's 20% more range skill damage. Cool, right? Vanilla, nothing crazy there. And then my boy brings attack stats. And that's what we're losing. We're losing 30% attack, and he's bringing 30% attack. And when we talk about diminishing returns, is this like the game changer now that we lost 30 and he's bringing 30? I hope so, right? Because I have him, right? And then when he does his skill, this is the expertise, right? At range, there's an 80% chance he's going to do a lot more damage, right? He brings 400, and then he brings a little rage with it, right? And then the skill that I'm talking about that I think brings me to the conclusion that he is going to do more damage is this one right here, man. 40% more damage to troops with less than 50% remaining. I think it's going to be significant now with everybody tankier, right? If you were to hit marches that weren't as tanky, they would crush pretty quick. And as everybody's trying to do damage, I think he's going to be the one that does more, right? So I think it's significant. I mean, I could be wrong. These are all guesses. I hate putting out stuff that's not concrete, but this is all guesses before the tech comes out. And if people have this march, so normally John and Steven get my third best gear. And because of this, they're going to get my second set. Like, it's kind of already in my mind that these kids are being brought off, not the bench, but they're third string. They're going to be second string now. And I'm probably going to test them out depending how they do with even first string gear. Because I want to see who could put up more numbers. Are they going to be the new meta? And it's kind of a bitch to do when you know a march does so well, right? So Gajamata and Gonzo. And man, after I did the skills testing, I almost want to put Gonzo in front too, just to see what that does, because he has so much attack, right? Not attack as far as like numbers attack, but doing damage in his trees. Like, it's impressive. So I truly wonder if that's even the better decision to have Gonzo in front of Gajamata. That's a whole nother other conversation. But I'm going to try my best to switch up gear so John and Steven get the number one set at some point, and just to see how they perform. Okay, so that's John's kit. Let's look at Steven's. Let's look at Steven. Steven's kit, he has engineering, versatility, and skill. I use him as a secondary. So, off the bat, he does some ranged attack, and if you get with inflicted, he can also do some heals, right? So, nice. Defense, 35%, and he heals, so I like the tankiness right there, and he has march speed. Next, less counterattack damage. Love it, right? That's what I want. So I'm getting tankier and less counterattack damage, and I do a little bonus to range. And this is the one here that makes this setup between these two all attack, right? So he starts out with 35 health that we saw in the other skill. And then he has a 40% chance to gain 2% attack and lose 0.5% defense for 15 seconds. That can stack up to 15 times. And it resets every time it gains a stack. This is really, really beneficial in a long fight. So that 35% defense could potentially drop down to 27.5 and gain 30% attack. This matchup between these two was very attack heavy in the past. And now that we've subtracted 30% attack because of the new crystal tech and made him a little bit tankier, he's gonna, in my mind, potentially do more damage but take less damage. And in long fights, this guy's gonna be a beast. And that's kind of the condition that people think is going to happen with the new crystal tech, is you're going to have longer fights. Now, initially, I don't think that's the case. People are so programmed to hit and run, hit and run, hit and run. It's going to take a little bit. But I think it's there. And I think because of these two, the way they're pumping out so much attack, and if diminishing returns had hurt them in the past, it's only going to help them now, right? The last skill, 10% more range skill damage, and has a small AoE that is, 15% to each one is reduced of that 500. So I think these two potentially, John and Steven is going to make a run at Gajamata and Gonzo. And I want to do as much comparison. It's hard to compare in the field, right? Because you're You're not hitting the same person every time. The length of the fight is going to be different. But, maybe 10 fights, and then I look at other 10 fights and I compare the numbers, right? If you guys have a good way to do that in the randomness of field fighting, I'd like to hear any suggestions. If you think that maybe John better paired with somebody else, maybe Bobber might be something, I don't know. And then if I do that, then is it going to be Margaret and Steven? Like, I like the way they come out, right? So Margaret and Bobber, Gajamata, Gonzo, John Steven. I like those pairs. I really don't like messing with that much. Because if you gain one in another pair and you lose on another, then really what did you accomplish? And you might overall lose something a little bit more. So that's why I like keeping the pairs as they are. But if you mix them up and you have a good time, knock yourself out. All right, guys, please do me a favor. If you got this far, and I know this is normally the time that you click off if you haven't clicked already, please like, subscribe. I get a lot of people who are first-time viewers, or they're at least viewers that have not subscribed. It just really helps me, and honestly, it's encouraging when people subscribe. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Range rocks. Have a good one. Bye.